The rain hit like a slap from God himself, turning the cracked sidewalk into a slick river that swallowed my sneakers whole. I pounded on the door again, my fist raw and throbbing, but the house stared back silent as a grave. My own goddamn house, mocking me with its locked mouth. "Come on, you piece of shit," I muttered, fumbling for the spare key that wasn't there. Because why would anything go right tonight? That's when the porch light next door flickered on, cutting through the downpour like a hesitant lifeline, and a voice, deep, unfamiliar, laced with that easy southern drawl, called out, "Hey, man, you need a hand." I froze, water streaming down my face, mixing with the salt of tears I hadn't meant to let loose. It was him, James, the neighbor's kid, all grown up now, leaning against his doorframe in a faded band tee that clung to his broad shoulders like it was painted on. He'd been away at college for years, some fancy art school in New York, but here he was, back in this sleepy corner of Atlanta suburbia, looking like he'd stepped out of one of those indie films where the hero's always brooding under streetlights. I wiped my eyes, trying to play it cool, but my voice cracked anyway. "Locked out. Again. Story of my life," he chuckled, low and warm, the kind of sound that could melt ice in July. "Well, shit. Dad's out of town, but I've got tools inside. Or, beer. Your call." Before I could protest, he was crossing the wet grass between our yards, umbrella in one hand, toolbox in the other, like he'd been waiting his whole life for a damsel in distress. Except I wasn't a damsel. I was Daniel, 32, divorced, and one bad day away from packing it all in and driving west until the road ended. But as he jimmied the lock with practiced ease, his arm brushing mine in the tight space of the porch, something shifted. The door swung open, and with it, a flood of possibility I hadn't felt since I was his age. We ended up back at his place anyway, because my power was out, storm surge, the utility line crackling like it was auditioning for a horror flick. James's house smelled like fresh paint and old books, a weird mix that screamed, recently inherited from boomer parents. He handed me a towel, then a cold IPA from the fridge, and we settled on the sagging couch in the living room, the rain drumming a relentless rhythm on the roof. "So," he said, kicking off his boots, "what's got you out in this mess? Ex-wife lock you out for spite?" I laughed, bitter and short. "Something like that. Sarah's been gone 6 months now, but she left the locks unchanged out of courtesy." "Courtesy? My ass. More like a fuck you from beyond the alimony." He nodded. Those blue eyes, God, they were the color of faded denim, locking onto mine with an intensity that made my skin prickle. James was 24, fresh-faced with a jawline that could cut glass and tattoos peeking from his sleeves. A compass rose on one forearm, some abstract swirl on the other. He'd always been the golden boy next door, mowing lawns for extra cash back in high school, waving at me when I'd stumble home from shifts at the garage. Now he was a man, and the way he looked at me wasn't neighborly. It was hungry. We talked for hours, or maybe it was minutes. Time blurred under the haze of beer and exhaustion. He told me about New York, the galleries that chewed him up and spat him out, the string of boyfriends who never stuck because they couldn't handle the quiet after the chaos. Boyfriends. The word hung there, electric, and I felt my pulse kick up. I'd known I was gay since I was 15, buried it under layers of small-town denial, married Sarah to prove something to myself, to my folks, to the world. But hearing him say it so casual, like it was just another Tuesday, cracked something open in me. You ever think about just starting over? He asked, leaning closer, his knee brushing mine. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. I shrugged, staring at the bottle in my hand. Every damn day. But starting over means leaving everything behind. This house, the shop, the ghosts. He set his beer down, turned fully toward me, and in that moment, with rain lashing the windows, he reached out and cupped my face, gentle, like I was something fragile. Maybe the ghosts are what you need to let go of first. His thumb traced my jaw, and I didn't pull away. Couldn't. Our lips met in a crash of heat and hesitation, tasting of hops and desperation. It was messy, urgent, his hands tangling in my wet hair as I gripped his shirt like a lifeline. When we broke apart, gasping, he whispered against my mouth, "Stay. Just tonight." And God help me, I did. Morning came too soon, sunlight slicing through the blinds like accusations. I woke to the smell of coffee, James humming in the kitchen, some old Springsteen tune that made my chest ache. He slid a mug across the counter, steam curling up like secrets. "Sleep okay?" he asked, that grin of his lighting up the room. I nodded, throat tight. Last night felt like a dream, one I'd wake from and regret, but his eyes said otherwise. We ate scrambled eggs in silence at first, the kind of quiet that's comfortable, not loaded. Then he asked about my work, fixing up classic cars at O'Malley's garage downtown, the ones with rust-eaten frames and stories etched in every dent. "Sounds poetic," he said, smirking. "Like you're resurrecting the dead." I snorted. "More like wrestling demons." Last week, I had this '67 Mustang that fought me every bolt. Reminded me of myself. He laughed, but there was a softness there, an understanding that bridged the 8 years between us. By noon, he was dragging me out to his backyard studio, a converted shed crammed with canvases and turpentine fumes. "I need a model," he declared, propping up a blank stretch of linen. "And you look like you've got stories worth painting," I protested, half-hearted, but stripped down to my jeans anyway, the autumn chill raising goosebumps on my skin. He sketched me there, against the brick wall, charcoal flying across paper with a focus that bordered on reverence. His gaze lingered, not just on my body, but on the scars. The faded one across my ribs from a bar fight in my 20s, the tattoo on my shoulder of a broken clock, frozen at 2:17, the minute Sarah walked out. "What's that one mean?" he asked, nodding at it. I hesitated, then spilled it all, the affair she'd confessed to, the lies that unraveled us, the way I'd blamed myself for not seeing it sooner. He set the charcoal down, crossed the space in 2 strides, and pulled me into his arms. No words, just the steady beat of his heart against mine. We made love there on the drop cloth, slow and deliberate, like we were mapping each other's edges. Afterward, tangled in sheets we dragged inside, he traced patterns on my chest and murmured, "You're not broken, Daniel. You're just bent." And that's beautiful. It was too easy, that first week. Too perfect. I'd sneak over after shifts, grease still under my nails, and he'd greet me with takeout from that hole-in-the-wall Thai place on Peachtree. We'd watch bad movies on his couch, his head in my lap, my fingers carding through his hair. He showed me his art raw, Emotional pieces about loss and longing, sold for peanuts online but priceless to him. I opened up about my own buried dreams, wanting to restore cars not just for cash, but to build something lasting, maybe even a custom shop of my own. But cracks showed early. His phone would buzz at odd hours. Texts from friends in New York with names like Alex and Jordan, and he'd silence it quick, but not quick enough. I catch him staring out windows, that faraway look in his eyes, like Atlanta was just a pit stop. One night, after a particularly brutal day at the garage, boss riding my ass about quotas, I came over wired and angry. We argued over nothing, some dumb thing about dinner, and it escalated. "You think this is easy for me?" I shouted. "I'm twice your age, James. This us. It's a goddamn grenade with the pin half pulled." He flinched, but fired back. "And what? I'm just the young fling to blow off steam? Newsflash. Daniel, I'm not a kid. I know what I want." We made up in the bedroom, fiercer than before, but the seed of doubt was planted. Betrayal? Not yet. But the writing was on the wall, scrawled in invisible ink. Fall deepened, leaves turning the streets into a blaze of red and gold. But inside me, winter was creeping in. James and I fell into a rhythm. Mornings where he'd wake me with coffee and kisses, afternoons stealing moments in his studio while I pretended to help with canvases, just to watch him work. He painted me again, this time in oils. Me sprawled on the hood of that Mustang I just finished, sunlight catching the sweat on my brow, eyes fierce and alive. "It's you," he said, stepping back to admire it. "The man who's finally seeing himself." I hung it in my living room, right over the mantel where Sarah's photo used to glare down. Friends noticed. Mark from the garage clapped me on the back one day, grinning like an idiot. "Heard you've got a boy toy next door. 'Bout time you got back in the saddle, Dan." I punched his arm, laughing it off. But inside, terror. Atlanta wasn't San Francisco. Coming out here meant whispers at church potlucks, side eyes from old neighbors. My folks, down in Savannah, still thought Sarah was the villain, not the fact that I'd married her to hide who I was. Telling them about James? That was a bridge I'd burn later. He met them anyway, sort of. Thanksgiving rolled around, and James's dad, big, bluffing Tom Hargrove, real estate kingpin, invited us both over for turkey and football. Tom had always liked me. We'd shot the shit over fences about Braves games and carburetors. But when James slung an arm around my shoulders at the door, casual as you please, Tom's face tightened. "What's this?" he asked, voice gruff. James straightened, chin up. "Dad, you remember Daniel? We're together." The silence stretched like taffy, Tom's eyes flicking between us. Then he clapped me on the back, hard enough to rattle my teeth, and boomed, "Well, hell. As long as you're treatin' my boy right." It was acceptance. Southern style. Gruff. Unspoken. But real. We ate pie on the porch after, James's hand finding mine under the table, and for the first time, I let myself believe this could last. But belief's a fragile thing. Mid-December, snow dusting the pines like powdered sugar, a rarity here, James got a call. I was under the kitchen sink, fixing a leak he'd ignored for weeks, when his face drained of color. "New York," he said later, pacing the living room. "Gallery wants a show." My show's the real deal this time, solo exhibit. Opening in February. Pride swelled in me first, My guy, making it big. Then dread. That's amazing, James. You going? He stopped, looked at me with those eyes that could undo a man. I want to. But us, long distance? I've seen what that does. We talked circles that night, voices rising until the neighbors, ironic, given our history, might have heard. I pushed him to go, because holding him back would make me the villain, the small-town anchor dragging down his dreams. Go, I said finally, throat raw. Paint the world. I'll be here. He left the week after New Year's, airport kiss tasting like goodbye. The house next door echoed with absence, his dad's occasional waves a poor substitute. I threw myself into work, restoring a '72 Camaro that purred like a beast when I fired it up. Mark dragged me to bars on weekends, dive joints with sticky floors and drag shows that had me laughing till my sides hurt. But every neon-lit face blurred into James's, every drag queen's wink a pale echo of his smirk. Texts came sporadic at first. Miss you. Studio smells like regret without your grease monkey hands. Then photos, him in a beanie against Manhattan snow, sketches of strangers that looked suspiciously like me. Calls turned intimate, voices low over the line, guiding each other through lonely nights. Touch yourself for me, he'd whisper, and I'd obey, hating the miles between us. It worked, for a while. Human connection, stitched across states with pixels and promises. Then the lies started. Subtle, at first. A late night at the gallery that stretched to dawn. Unexplained charges on his shared credit card for hotels in Brooklyn. I ignored it, chalked it up to stress. He was chasing dreams. Who was I to clip his wings? But doubt festered. One February night, scrolling X, that's Twitter for us old-timers. I saw it, a post from some art scene account, James tagged in a photo at the opening. Arm around a guy tall, lithe, with cheekbones like razors and a smile that screamed muse. Caption: James Hargrove brings the heat with collaborator, and more. Ethan Cole. Sparks fly. NYC art scene. My stomach dropped. I called him, voice steady as I could manage. Saw the pic. Who's Ethan? Laughter on his end. Too quick. Just a friend. Dan. Curator hookup. You know how these things are, networking. But his tone wobbled, and when I pressed, he snapped. Jesus. Trust me for once? This is my shot. We hung up angry, the line dead as my heart felt. Betrayal doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It seeps in, slow poison. Ethan popped up more, likes on James's posts, stories of them brainstorming over wine. I drove to the garage that night, wrench in hand, and beat the hell out of a fender that didn't deserve it. Mark found me at dawn, covered in dents and denial. Talk to me, brother, he said, cracking open a thermos of coffee. So I did, spilled the whole mess, from the lockout to the long-distance lies. He listened, then hugged me fierce. You're worth more than scraps, Dan. Remember that. I tried. God, I tried. Sent James a care package, tools for his apartment, a mixtape of Springsteen and whiskey in a flask engraved with bent but unbroken. His reply, love you. Coming home soon. But soon stretched to March, then April, excuses piling like Atlanta humidity. The high point of that spring, fixing up a bike for a kid in the neighborhood, 10 years old, wide-eyed, dreaming of speed. Seeing him tear down the street, wind in his hair, reminded me of joy's simplicity. James would have painted it, captured that freedom on canvas. But freedom's double-edged. One humid evening, Tom's truck pulled into the drive next door, and he waved me over. "Boy's in trouble," he grunted, handing me a beer on his porch. "That city life's eaten him alive. Calls me crying last week. Said he fucked up." My blood ran cold. "Fucked up how?" Tom shrugged, eyes distant. "Didn't say. But whatever it is, fix it if you can. You're good for him, Daniel. Always were." I booked a flight that night, impulse. Credit card be damned. Landed in LaGuardia at midnight. Cab to his walk-up in Bushwick. Heart hammering like a V8 engine. He opened the door in boxers and a paint-smeared tee. Eyes bloodshot. Apartment reeking of weed and regret. "Dan? What the?" I pushed past. Saw the evidence. Take-out boxes for two. A man's jacket slung over a chair. "Ethan." We fought like animals, words as weapons, accusations flying. "How long?" I demanded, voice breaking. He crumbled, sinking to the floor. 2 months. It was stupid, a distraction. I was scared. Scared this thing between us was too real, too fast. Tears streamed down his face. And mine too, because betrayal hurts like hellfire. But love twists the knife. "You let me in," I whispered, echoing that first night. "And now you're locking me out." He reached for me, but I stepped back. "I need time, James, to figure out if I can forgive this." I left him there, door clicking shut like a final judgment. Flew home to a house that felt emptier than before. Spring bloomed without us. Azaleas exploding in pinks and whites, mocking my wilted heart. I threw myself into the shop, took on extra shifts, even started mentoring that kid with the bike, teaching him torque wrenches and the art of second chances. James called daily, voicemails raw with pleas. "I'm coming back. For real this time. Wait for me." I deleted half, saved the rest. A masochist's playlist. Tom mediated. Awkward family dinners where we'd skirt the elephant. Ethan. The lies. The love that wouldn't die. "Boys make mistakes," Tom said once, clapping my shoulder. Hell, I did plenty with James's mom before she wised up and left. It humanized him. That admission reminded me we're all just stumbling through. By summer's edge, James returned, not with fanfare, but a quiet knock on my door. Duffel at his feet, eyes hollowed by city ghosts. "I'm done with New York," he said simply. "If you'll have me." I let him in. Not to my bed, but the guest room. Forgiveness is a process, not a light switch. We rebuilt slow, shared silences over coffee, walks in Piedmont Park where dog walkers eyed us with quiet nods. He painted again, not me, but us. Abstracts of tangled limbs and fractured light, sold to a local gallery for enough to fund his own space. But conflict simmered. My trust was a cracked engine block, functional, but prone to leaks. One night, after a Braves loss and too much bourbon, I accused him of hiding his phone. "Still talking to him?" He slammed the glass down, face thunderous. "Ethan's ancient history. Why can't you let it go?" "Because it hurts." I wanted to scream. "Because you shattered me, and shards don't just glue back neat." We hit the wall that July, heat wave turning Atlanta into a skillet, tempers frying right alongside. James had rented a booth at the Ponce City Market Art Fair, his first big local show, and I was there, front row, nursing a craft beer amid hipsters and housewives. His pieces drew crowds. That one of us, Bent Horizon, fetched $3,000 from a tech bro who gushed about queer resilience in the post-Trump era. James glowed, signing prints. But when a familiar voice cut through, "Babe, this is incredible," my beer soured in my gut. Ethan. In the flesh, all cheekbones and designer jeans, flown in for support. James's face paled, but he played it cool, introducing us with a strained smile. Daniel. Ethan. Old colleague. The word burned. Ethan shook my hand, grip firm, eyes appraising. Heard a lot about you. James says you're the rock. I forced a nod, excused myself to the bathroom, where I dry heaved into the sink, staring at a man I barely recognized, hollow-cheeked, eyes shadowed by suspicion. Back home, the explosion was biblical. You invited him? I roared, pacing the kitchen while James leaned against the counter, arms crossed. No, he just showed, swear to God. Lies or truth? His eyes pleaded honesty, but my heart whispered doubt. We circled each other like wary cats, words escalating to shouts. I gave up everything for you, he yelled. New York. My career, Ethan, was a mistake. But you're punishing me like it's gospel. I stopped, breath ragged. Because it feels like gospel, James. Like sin I can't absolve. He broke first, sinking to his knees, head in hands. I hate myself for it. Every day. But I love you. Fiercer than I knew how to handle. The vulnerability gutted me. I knelt too, pulled him close, our sobs mingling in the humid air. That night, we didn't make love, we just held on, two broken halves trying to fit. Morning brought fragile peace, pancakes and plans. He quit the freelance gigs that tied him to the city, focused on local commissions. I enrolled in night classes at Georgia Tech Business Basics to turn the garage dream real. Life normalized, or as normal as it gets when your heart's been through the ringer. We hosted a barbecue for Mark and his crew, James charming them with stories of Bushwick dives, me grilling burgers like a pro. Tom showed, bringing his new girlfriend, a sweet nurse named Carla who baked killer cornbread and didn't bat an eye at the boys. Laughter filled the yard, fireflies winking approval. For a moment, felt like family, not the blood kind, but the chosen, hard one. But romance thrives on tension, and ours reignited in stolen ways. A weekend getaway to the Smokies, cabins and creeks, where we hiked trails hand in hand. No phones, just us. At a waterfall's base, mist rising like steam, he dropped to one knee, not with a ring, but a pebble smoothed by water. This is us, he said, pressing it into my palm. Tumbled, polished, enduring, we fucked against the rocks after, water cascading over us, urgent and alive. Back home, he inked a new tattoo, a matching pebble on his wrist, and I felt the glue set a little stronger. Climax brewed in August, hurricane season stirring the Gulf like a pissed-off god. James's dad called frantic. Tom's firm was tanking, bad investments in Florida condos wiped clean by the storm. Need help with the house, he grumbled. Papers, listings, hell, just company. We drove down to the old place in Roswell, a McMansion on steroids, now echoing with divorce ghosts. Carla was there, packing boxes, but the air crackled with unspoken grief. That night, over whiskey in the study, Tom opened up real talk, the kind that strips men bare. "I pushed James too hard," he admitted, staring at faded photos. "Wanted him to be the son I dreamed up, straight A lawyer, not this artist bullshit. Pushed his mom away too." James squeezed my hand under the table, his own eyes wet. "Dad, it's okay. We're okay." But it wasn't. Later, in the guest room, James confessed his own storm. "Seeing him like this scares me. What if we end up broken too?" I held him through the shakes, whispering assurances, but doubt mirrored his. The next day, rifling boxes for listings, I found it. A letter, yellowed, from James's mom. "To my boy, don't let fear choose for you. Love loud, love true." Tucked inside, a photo, young Tom and her, arms around a toddler James, all grins under Georgia's sun. It humanized them, turned icons to flesh. We sold the house quick, cash buyer, no fuss, and drove back richer in understanding, poorer in illusions. Fall returned, leaves crunching underfoot like brittle promises. James's art took off locally, a mural for the Beltline, vibrant queer icons marching in color. I pitched my shop idea to the bank, Hargrove and Hale Restorations, a nod to him, and got the loan. Groundbreaking was a party. Shovels and champagne, Mark toasting to second acts. James painted the sign that night, gold leaf on wood, and we christened it slow and sweet on the dirt lot, stars wheeling overhead. Yet betrayals echo lingered. Ethan's text stopped, but James's phone buzzed with a new ghost. An ex from college. "Ryan, just checking in. Harmless, maybe." But when I saw them coffee and G downtown, innocent catch-up, James swore. I snapped. Home that night, I packed a bag. "I can't keep waiting for the other shoe," I said, voice steel. He blocked the door, tears fierce. "Then don't wait. Fight for us." "I'm fighting every day not to run." We stood there, inches apart, the chasm of our hurts yawning wide. Then he kissed me, desperate, devouring, and I dropped the bag. Not surrender, but survival. We saw a therapist after, a no-nonsense queer doc in Midtown who called our bullshit and handed us tools. Communication cards, date nights, the raw work of trust. Sessions unearthed my own betrayals, not to James, but myself, years wasted in closets. His too, the prodigy pressure, fleeing emotions in paint and lovers. By Thanksgiving, we hosted turkey and tofurkey, Tom and Carla, Mark with his new beau. Laughter flowed freer, toasts to what doesn't kill us. James carved the bird. I mashed potatoes, our hands brushing in domestic poetry. That night, in bed, he traced my tattoos, voice soft. "Marry me, Daniel. Not today, but someday. Build this life." I pulled him close, heart full. Someday, but drama's not done with us yet. December brought snow again, real accumulation, blanketing the suburbs in hush. James's mural went viral, some influencer calling it the heartbeat of Atlanta's soul. Offers poured in LA galleries, Berlin residencies. He turned them down, but one nagged, a month in Savannah, teaching at SCAD, close enough for weekends. "Go," I said, no hesitation. "We'll make it work." Pride swelled, he was blooming, and I was his soil. He left mid-month, our goodbye kiss lingering at the airport like unfinished business. Texts flew, class full of firecrackers. Miss your hands. I dove into the shop, walls up, cars rolling in steady. Christmas Eve, alone with a tree strung in lights, I hung our pebble ornaments, his gift, symbols of endurance. The bell jingled then, door opening, and there he was, snow-dusted, grin wide. Surprise. Couldn't stay away. We rang in the new year, tangled in each other. Resolutions whispered. More honesty. More us. But as January thawed, a letter arrived, certified, from Ethan's lawyer. Defamation suit? No, a painting. Ethan, claiming co-ownership on Bent Horizon, that piece of our soul. He says I stole the concept, James fumed, crumpling the paper. Rage boiled in me, not just for the theft, but the gall. This was our story, twisted into legal knots. The lawsuit hit like a derailleur in the spokes, sudden, grinding halt to our momentum. Ethan, from the shadows of Brooklyn, alleging intellectual property theft, that Bent Horizon was inspired by their collaborative sessions, complete with timestamps on sketches that predated us. Bullshit. Of course, James's journals proved otherwise. Frantic scribbles from our first nights. But courts don't care for poetry. Lawyers descended, mine, a bulldog from the garage's small business network. His, a pro bono queer advocate with rainbow pins on her lapel. Depositions were hell. Me in a stuffy midtown office, recounting intimacies under fluorescent glare. Describe your relationship's inception, the attorney droned. I flushed, detailing the lockout, the rain, the kiss that rewired my world. James fared worse, voice cracking as he admitted the affair. It was a lapse. Weakness. But the art, that's mine, ours. Ethan, via video, smirked through it all, polished lies rolling off his tongue like silk. James and I shared everything. Ideas, beds, why not canvases, nights blurred into war rooms, takeout boxes and legal pads, Tom pacing with Dad fury. That little prick, I'll bury him in fees, but money drained, shop startup funds diverted to retainers. I worked doubles, oil changes at dawn, restorations till dusk, body aching but resolve iron. James painted through the stress, furious abstracts, reds and blacks bleeding across linen, sold quietly to fund the fight. This is catharsis, he'd say, charcoal smudged on his cheek. I'd wipe it off, kiss the spot, remind him, we're unbreakable. Climax crested in March. Mediation in a glass tower overlooking the Chattahoochee. Ethan arrived cocky, arm candy in tow, a new model type, but faltered when James presented the evidence. Dated journals, my tattoo photo as muse reference. Even Tom's affidavit swearing his son's obsession with the neighbor predated any Yankee fling. The mediator, a weary ex-judge, leaned back. Mr. Cole, this smells like sour grapes. Drop it, or we go to trial, and your collaboration gets public airing. Ethan folded. Settlement minimal. Shared credit on one minor piece. NDA sealing the rest. We walked out into spring sun, hands clasped, laughing delirious. We won, James breathed, spinning me on the sidewalk like a rom-com lead. That night, victory sex on the shop floor, hood of the Camaro our altar, tools scattered like confetti. To us, he toasted with motor oil on his fingers, and I believed it, bone deep. But victory's afterglow fades, revealing scars. The suit unearthed insecurities. James second-guessing every canvas. Me flinching at every out-of-town call. Therapy helped. Our doc prescribing radical vulnerability. Weekly letters, read aloud. No judgments. Mine spilled regrets. I fear I'm holding you back. The old dog too set in ruts. His, I fear I'll break you again. Chase shadows instead of light. Reading them, tears falling. We mended, stitches of words stronger than silence. Summer hummed with healing. Shop grand opening. Hargrove and Hale. Ribbon cut by Carla, who cried into her hanky. Customers streamed. Classic buffs. Custom jobs. Even a wedding car for a lesbian couple down the street. James designed the logo, a stylized wrench entwined with a brush. Evenings, we'd close up together, his head on my shoulder as we locked gates, the city lights winking approval. Romance deepened in quiet ways. Picnics in Grant Park, where he'd sketch me dozing against oaks. Drives in restored rides, windows down, his hand on my thigh. One August night, heat lightning forking the sky, he proposed for real this time. On the porch where it started, rain pattering soft, he knelt with a ring. Black hills, simple band etched with 217, our broken clock, reset. Marry me, Daniel Hale. Be my horizon. I said yes through chokes, pulling him up for a kiss that tasted like forever. Wedding planning was chaos, humanistic, messy joy. Tom walked him down the aisle at a vineyard outside Athens. Mark best man with jokes that had us howling. Vows exchanged under grapevines heavy with fruit, mine. You unlocked me when I was bolted shut. His, you grounded me when I feared the fall. Carla officiated, her nurse's steadiness blessing us. Reception danced till dawn, Springsteen blasting, queer anthems mixed in, toasts to betrayals survived, loves reclaimed. Honeymoon in the Keys, convertibles and conch fritters, snorkeling reefs where fish darted free. We talked dreams unchecked, him, a gallery of his own, me, expanding the shop to apprenticeships for at-risk kids. Back home, life settled into poetry. Mornings tangled in sheets, coffee shared over headlines, evenings where he'd paint and I'd tinker, our worlds overlapping seamless. But stories don't end tidy. Humanity demands edges. A year in, James's mom resurfaced. Letter from Oregon. Postmarked regret. Saw your wedding pic online. Proud. Baby. Can we talk? He froze, handing it to me. What if she's poison? I squeezed his hand. Or healing. They met neutral coffee in a strip mall. Her older, softer, eyes like his. Stories spilled. Her own closet escapes. The divorce that freed them both. No fairy tale reunion, but a bridge tentative calls, a visit promised. My folks, trickier. Savannah conservatives, faith armored thick. I drove down solo first. Dinner at their clabbered house. Shrimp and grits steaming. Seeing someone, I said casual, testing waters. Dad grunted over his beer. Mom's fork paused. When I named James, showed the ring, silence thundered. Dad cleared his throat. Long as he treats you right, son. Mom hugged me after, whispering, love's love. We were blind, not perfect, but progress, human, flawed, enough. Conflict flared minor now. Shop deadlines clashing with his deadlines. petty spats over laundry. But we fought fair timeouts, makeups with takeout and tenderness. One night, storm raging like our first, power out, we lit candles and slow danced to a battery radio. "Remember the lockout?" he murmured. I chuckled. Best mistake ever. Our bodies moved as one, rhythm of survivors. By winter's turn, we mentored that kid from years back, now 16, apprenticing at the shop, James teaching him sketches of engines as art. Watching them grease and graphite filled me with purpose. Betrayal's ghost faded to lesson. Love isn't absence of pain, but presence through it. Yet drama whispered once more. Spring brought news. James, shortlisted for a MacArthur grant, genius money, life-changing. "If I win," he said, pacing, "it means travel." Months away, fear flickered, echoes of New York, Ethan's shadow. But I breathed deep, pulled him close. "Go chase it. I'll hold the fort. Trust. Earned in trenches. Held." The call came in April, fellowship awarded, $500,000 purse. Celebrations erupted. Shop party. Tom toasting my prodigy son. James funneled funds wise, gallery seed, shop expansion, college fund for our mentee. But the grant demanded a project, American queer landscapes, road trip across states, capturing stories in paint. We planned together, Route 66 to the southwest, Appalachia loops, Heartland detours. Partners in crime, he grinned. Summer saw us gone, camper towed by the Mustang, sketchpad and wrenches our arsenal. In dusty Oklahoma diners, we heard tales. Elders who'd hidden loves in barns, kids coming out to rainbows of support. James painted them fierce, portraits of resilience, exhibited later in D.C. to acclaim. One night in New Mexico, under star-drenched skies, we camped by a mesa. Fire crackling, he turned to me. "This is it, Dan. The everything that changed." I kissed him slow, heart sinking. Betrayal? A distant scar. Love? The map we followed home. Return to Atlanta was bittersweet. Tanned, tattooed with temporary ink from a Taos artist, laden with canvases that screamed stories. The gallery opening was a triumph. Road to us, walls alive with queer Americana. Critics raving, a love letter to hidden hearts. Buyers snapped pieces, one, a fiery sunset over a Kentucky holler, to the Smithsonian. James stood tall in the spotlight, but his hand sought mine always, anchor in the whirl. Life post-grant settled profound. Shop thrived, apprentices now a program, partnering with local shelters, teaching trades to queer youth fleeing homes. I led classes. Engines don't judge, neither should we. James wove in art therapy, brushes alongside bolts, turning scars to strength. Our mentee, now Javier, graduated high school top tier, bound for SCAD on our pooled scholarships. At his send-off barbecue, he hugged us fierce. "You saved me, Dads." The word casual, earned hit like grace. But humanism demands shadows. Tom's health dipped, prostate scare, surgery swift but sobering. We rallied, James bedside, me fixing his old Chevy for hospital runs. Carla held steady, but cracks showed her own burnout, nursing's toll. "Marriage is work," she confided one night, over tea. "Yours looks easy," I laughed soft. "It's not. But worth it." James and I weathered our storms too. A gallery dispute, stolen commission, echoes of Ethan tested tempers. He withdrew to the studio, paints flying furious. I buried in the shop, engines roaring my rage. 3 days silent. Then a note on the fridge, coffee? Studio. Love, your horizon. We talked till dawn. Apologies airbrushed with affection. We're better for the breaks, he said. And damn if he wasn't right. Anniversary 2nd. Vow renewal. Intimate Piedmont Park gazebo. Mark officiating with bad puns. Rings exchanged anew. Pebbles inset now. Glinting promises. Honeymoon redux. Smokies again, but with ringside hikes and creekside confessions. Kids? He mused one dusk, skipping stones. I pondered adoption whispers, fostering dreams. Someday, I echoed his old line. With you, fall brought family fusion. Mom and dad visiting, tour of the shop, dinner with Tom. Awkward at first, southern politeness veiling probes, but wine loosened tongues. Dad bonded with Tom over war stories, Vietnam versus Gulf. Bridges built. Mom admired James's murals, tearing up at one of a young man locked out in rain. That's you too, she said, hugging us both. Acceptance. Late blooming, bloomed bright. Winter whispered legacy. James's mom visited, full week. Oregon chill thawed in Georgia warmth. Cooking disasters, her vegan attempts versus our meat and 3. But stories flowed, her escape to Portland, queer commune life, regrets aired gentle. I left too soon, she admitted to James, hands clasped. But you're whole, he forgave, not forgetting human arc, curved toward light. Climax revisited in spring, wildfire threat, drought parching the south. Our neighborhood evacuated, flames licking Chattahoochee banks, smoke choking skies. We loaded the Mustang art, tools, photo albums, James clutching his mom's letter like talisman. On the highway, gridlock thick, he turned to me. If it all burns, I gripped the wheel. We rebuild. Always have. House spared, firefighters heroes, rain mercy, but the scare stripped us bare. That night, back in ash-scented rooms, we made love desperate, reclaiming walls. You're my home, he gasped, and I believed, utterly. Years folded forward. Shop a chain now, 3 locations. Javier managing the flagship, his own family blooming. James's gallery, unlocked, hub for emerging queer artists, walls ever-changing tapestries. We fostered first a teen runaway, Alex, all spikes and suspicion, softened slow by routine and love. Adoption papers signed on our 10th anniversary, party with found family, toasts to locks picked, hearts mended. Betrayal? A teacher now, in talks with schools from fracture to forge, our story anonymized, lessons in resilience. No glory, just giving back. One evening, porch swing creaking, Alex asleep inside, James leaned head on my shoulder. Think we made it? I kissed his temple. We're making it. Every day. The end? Not tragic. Not saccharine, human. Ongoing. Rain fell soft that night, echoing our start. I pulled him inside, door clicking shut, not locked, but open, to whatever changed next. In the quiet suburb where it began, 2 men, bent, unbroken, built a life from a single, soaked key. Love, dramatic and deep, proved the ultimate restoration, not erasing dents, but polishing them to shine.